everyone, and welcome to Motuts, where motion is made easy. My name is John Navarro, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do this Tron derezz disintegration title effect in Motion 5. Now this effect was inspired by another Tron tutorial that is available on AEtuts. Now this Tron tutorial is a bit more sophisticated. It was created using Cinema 4D and a combination of After Effects. We're going to try to create something similar to this to the best of our ability in Motion 5, given the fact that Motion is a little bit more limited, but still we're going to try to create something that's equally as cool and slightly different. The thing that's going to be different that we're going to try to add is the derezz disintegration that you see in this Tron video. I've always been kind of interested on how I could do this effect in Motion, and I played around with a couple different techniques, and that's what I'm going to show you guys today. So before we get started, I want to just take a quick moment to give a shout out to the guys who inspired me to take this journey down the path of learning motion, and those are Mark Spencer of rippletraining.com. Mark has a motion tutorial series called Motion Magic, where you can learn motion in under 5 minutes. And the second person is Simon Ubstel. Simon is a very talented motion graphic artist. He has motion tutorials on various different platforms, and he creates very sophisticated tutorials on Motion 5. So now that we've gotten some of the pleasantries out of the way, let's jump into what we're going to be learning today. So we're going to start by going into Motion 5. Now the version of Motion that I am going to be using for this tutorial today is Motion 5.4.1. There is a newer version, so if you do have the newer version, don't worry, you'll still be able to follow along. So anyway, you're going to go in here, you're going to start a new motion project, select motion project. We're going to change this to 15 frames per second just because this is a title animation. For the purposes of this tutorial, it doesn't need to be 24 frames per second. But if you are going to use this in a film or something for TV, then you will want to adapt that to either 24 or 30 frames per second, depending on how you plan to use it. So once you have those settings set, I'm going to set this to 10 seconds, which is already there, and then you would click open. Since I've already created one, I click cancel. Now we're going to add our group, and we're going to rename this group title. Then I want to click on the text tool, click in the project window, and I want to type Motuts. Okay. I want to click out of the window, add another group, and in the second group I want to rename it Subtitle. Click on the text tool again, click in the window, and add our subtitle, which is going to be our slogan, Motion Made Easy, and then click out. So with our title, I want to go into the text and the format tab, and I just want to make the text center, and then I want to reset this parameter here for the position. Click this down arrow, reset parameter, and now it's centered. Go back into text, and I want to resize this text to 200 pixels, and I want to change this text to the Tron font. Now if you don't have the Tron font, no worries, I've left a link in the description below where you can find it via dafont.com. The font is free to use for demo purposes. Okay, so we have that selected. You can see the font's changed. Now I want to go into the subtitle. Now I want this subtitle to be in the Euro style, so that's fine. What I want to do now is change this to 75 pixels, center it, and reset the X position to 0, the Y position to -100. I also want to go back into the text here, and I want to change the tracking. So I want to add the tracking 25%, just so it goes the full length. And then you know what? Let's make the main title 220 pixels. So now that that's done, what I want to do is I want to temporarily turn the subtitle off, because I want to start by creating the animation for the main title. So we're going to do that by clicking on Behavior, going into Text Animation, and Sequence Text. And as you saw in our preview video, the inspiration video, the text swoops in from above and off camera. So I just want to zoom out a little bit. And what we're going to do to try to achieve that is we're going to adjust the Y and Z space positions. So the Y axis is this green arrow. So we're just going to click and drag up. You could also change that by just going in here and changing the Y position parameter. If I click on that arrow and open up the Z position, I'm going to change the Z position to 1080. That's going to push it forward in Z space. You'll see that this is now left the screen. We can't see it. So I'm going to adjust this back down, let's say to 400 pixels. And now you can see the title is just off frame, right? So now what else do we want to do? I also want to adjust the X and Y rotation to add some little dynamicism to this, because we did see in our inspiration video that the text was kind of swooping in and spinning before settling back into its center final position. So I am going to hover over this dot right here, which will give me this red bar that will allow me to adjust the X rotation. Now I'm just going to pull that down, and then you'll see it created a rotation parameter here, and we see the X been adjusted. So we'll just change that to 108, and then I want to change the Y rotation. I want to make the Y rotation 180 and leave the Z rotation alone. Now if we just play back this simple change, you'll see that the text swoops in, spins, and settles. Right? And this is very simple. We're going to make this more dynamic. So we'll put the playhead back to the beginning. And what we're going to do now is adjust the sequence parameters. So what we want to do is, let's just close up these two parameters because we're done with those. And we want to go into the controls. So we want to sequence from character, so that's fine. Then under select, we want to spread this across 3 characters, so that basically the program is looking 3 characters ahead and animating 3 characters at a time, so that it makes it a little bit more fluid. Okay, so hit enter. If I play that back now, you'll see there's less lag time between the animation. Also, what I forgot to do here, and I'll do it now, is I want the animation to have a duration of 2 seconds. So I'm going to move the playhead to 2 seconds, and I'm going to select the sequence, and I'm going to hit the O key. That creates an out position. So now if I play that back, we'll see that comes in much faster. Now if we want to make this even more dynamic, what we can do is then adjust the variance. So if we scroll down here to variance and click the drop down arrow and we open this, you can change the variance parameter to, let's say, 50%. Okay, go back to the beginning, we'll see what that did. Now you see the letters are scattered out. So we still want to maintain that these letters are coming in from off screen. We can also adjust the noisiness to 1. That gets us a little further away. And then if we go back into the position, scroll down and change this Y position and just increase it until the U is completely off camera. I don't mind that the M is still there because I'm going to fade that in. Then we're all set. So looks like we can set this to 825 and we're off camera. So now if we play that through, see that flips in, boom, boom, boom. Nice. Okay. So the last thing we're going to do with this main title is add a fade in. So we're going to go to behaviors, basic motion, fade in, fade out. And then we want it to fade in, but we don't want it to fade out. We want it to stay on screen. So we're going to reduce the fade out time to 0. Leave the fade in time at 20. And now that's set. So we play that back and you'll see that fades in nice. Everything swoops in. Beautiful. So now go back to the 2 seconds. Now we're going to turn our subtitle back on. We're going to select our subtitle group. We're going to hit the I to adjust the in point to 2 seconds so that it doesn't come in until this 2 second point. And then if you remember from our reference video, our reference tutorial, the subtitle kind of fades in from outside towards the center, and there's this kind of flickering on and off effect going on, almost like a fluorescent bulb that's kind of not fully charged, right? So how are we going to do that? So we're going to add 2 sequences. The first sequence will handle the fading in, and the second sequence behavior will handle the flickering. So go into behaviors, text animation, sequence text, and here what we're going to do is we're going to add a format parameter for the opacity, and we're going to reduce the opacity to 0. And I want that to last up until the 3 second mark, and then hit O for out. And if we play that back, we'll see that that fades in, but it's fading in from left to right. So what we want to do here is we want to set the animation direction. So right now it's forward, which is left to right. We want to change that ends to center. So now if we play that back, we see it fades in from the outside to the inside, just like in our inspiration video. Last thing I want to do to adjust this is the spread. So I want to give this a spread of 3 characters, just like in the main title, so that it's looking ahead, because with the second sequence, we're going to go into behaviors again, text animation, sequence text, or if you wanted to do this a quicker way, you could just select this sequence, hit Command D to duplicate, double click on the duplicated sequence behavior, and just rename that to 2. Double click the original one and make that 1. Okay, and just move this above. So now we're going to open that, hide. Okay, so because the effect is almost exactly the same with a couple differences, I want to make this second sequence text parameter slightly longer. So I'm going to set the out point to 4 seconds. And then I want to sequence from, instead of animating the character, I want to animate the custom. So the custom is going to allow me to kind of go, it's going to highlight different sections of the subtitle versus doing it in sequence character by character. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So what I want to do here is I want to change the spread to 1. That's going to give us that staggering effect that you see in our inspiration video. And then in variance, set that to 50%. Set the noisiness to 1. Okay, and this is already set from ends to center. So now if we play this back, we should see a flickering. And there you go. So one more time, we see that fade in left to right, and then the characters kind of flicker sporadically. One final piece of housekeeping before we move on to the part 2, and that's just stylizing this. So we want to get this to look more like the Tron font. We're going to change this to 3D text. Now in 3D text, there's a bunch of stuff that we're going to change here. First, on the top, we're going to make the depth 80. We are going to change the depth direction from centered to backwards. We're going to leave the weight at 0. We're going to change the front edge to beveled ring. And the front edge size we're going to reduce to 2. So that looks more kind of like neon metallic-ish. We're going to go in here, we're going to change the lighting style. So we're going to change this to backlit. And the intensity we're going to reduce to 50%. And then check self shadows on the lighting, and in the environment I want to change the environment from field to squares. So that kind of just softens it up and makes the reflections a little bit more natural. The intensity of the squares we can also reduce from 100 to, let's say, 50%, and that you'll see that it starts to give you a little bit more variation in the shading. Okay, so now that that's done, we're going to actually leave this as plastic, and we're just going to change the color. So on the color wheel, we want something that's Tronish. That looks about right. So just want to make this full screen again so we can see it. And actually, we might even be able to go a little bit bigger with this depth. Let's make this 100. There you go. So you can see it. It's more pronounced. Now with the subtitle, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make it 3D. We're going to leave this pretty much the same. We're not going to change any of the parameters here with the exception of the color. We'll just pick the color picker and click in here, and that's it. We're done. So if we go to the beginning and watch this play through, we have a nice little title animation there. Alright guys, so that's it. So thank you for joining us for our very first Motuts tutorial. Again, my name is John Navarro. If you like this content, please don't forget to click subscribe and share with your friends. And check in with us every Monday at 9 p.m. for our Motion Mondays. That's when we'll be posting new tutorials. And we will see you next Monday for part 2 of this Tron derezz disintegration tutorial series. Thanks again for watching.